Hello and welcome to the penultimate round of the Car Sales TCR Australia Simracing Series. I'm Cameron Vandendung and I'll be joined by Lachlan Ladies Man Mansell as we bring you all the action from rounds 11 and 12 of the Car Sales TCR Australia Simracing Series at the Adelaide Street Circuit in the Adelaide Parklands, a circuit that is well known and beloved by all Australian motorsport fans. And for those of you tuning in from all over the world, I hope you enjoy the action that gets put on this tight little track, but has a very, very fast corner in turn 8 and a number of technical little sections around the course with a nice little hairpin to finish off the lap and then get started again. It's a bumpy old track. The walls are very close and no doubt we'll see plenty of action tonight. We're going to start with qualifying. Astron Tech pole will be set in this session before we get race number 11 or round 11 of the series underway. And then a short break and we'll have round number 12. Lachlan Mansell joining me now. Now, Lockie, we've got Dylan O'Keefe leading this series at the moment, but he's not in Australia anymore, is he?
No. Very good afternoon or good evening to you, Cameron, and good evening everybody else. And yes, the big news coming into tonight's penultimate event on the TCR Australia Simracing calendar is the fact that our current points leader, Dylan O'Keefe, he's jetted off over to Europe. He's currently in Switzerland. He's been doing a bit of testing with the Vukovic Motorsport Renault TCR team over in Austria, and he's still currently based over there in Europe. But he's so determined to win this championship that he's managed to find a simulator set up over there, and he is going to be part of the field tonight aboard the Gary Rogers Motorsport Renault Megane. And it's pretty important for Dylan that he scores as many points as he can, because at the top of the standings there are only 13 points separating him from Ben Bargwanna.
And remember, Lockie, the points do count even from qualifying. 10 points up for grabs in qualifying for your Astron Tech pole sitter, 9876543, all the way down to 10th. So points are available during qualifying, critical for both Dylan O'Keefe and Ben Bargwanna. Make sure they're at the pointy end, which they have done at just about every round. In fact, Ben Bargwanna and Dylan O'Keefe have not qualified, if I look at this correctly, outside the top 3 in any of our events thus far, in any of the 5 rounds we've been to before. Incredible performance by both of those drivers.
And not only that, but they're the only 2 drivers to have achieved an Astron Tech pole position so far this season. And coming into tonight's penultimate event, the scorecard reads 3 Astron Tech pole positions for Ben Bargwanna versus 2 for Dylan O'Keefe. So it'll be interesting this evening to see if any of the other drivers can get themselves onto that pole position scoreboard. But practice around the Adelaide Circuit, the second straight circuit that we've visited so far this season. We ran at Surfers Paradise a bit earlier on in the year. And like you said, Cameron, some very, very, I suppose, notorious corners highlighted by the long, sweeping and very unforgiving right-hander at turn 8.
Yeah, it's a technical little track here as well. Very difficult in a sim setup just to get a feel for the track. You have this start here as we ride on board with Ben Bargwanna down to a technical braking zone in real life, and then you need to not straight cut that, not shortcut that chicane, because those gutters, those ripple strips in real life are extraordinarily high and they will break a lot of pieces on your car. Then you come into the staircase section, as our good mate Matt Knuckles Nolte likes to call it. And again, it's all about getting that car settled and getting good acceleration off those turns. And then, Lockie, you start to head out the back here. Try to keep it off the ripple strip on the exit. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of drivers that normally run wide on the exit there. And you need good drive at this point, Lockie, before you head down to that exceptionally fast turn 8. And I can tell you, it is much easier to approach in a sim than it is in real life.
I know that you've driven around this circuit in real life, and it is an absolute commitment corner, isn't it? Because the turning point is blind, so it's actually really difficult to judge the point at which you turn into the corner. And not only that, there's absolutely no runoff on the exit, so if you get it even slightly wrong, you are going to go hard into the fence on the outside. And then we head through turn number 9, the hairpin, which is one of the main overtaking opportunities. As we continue to ride on board here, we head up into the final corner, turn number 14, which is also quite a slow right-hander, which leads back onto the main straight here at the Adelaide Parklands Circuit.
Fantastic, though, to have those grandstands there. It's an amazing atmosphere for anyone that's had the opportunity to witness an event down in Adelaide at the Street Circuit. You just have the roar. It's like a football crowd roar when that grandstand lights up. An amazing circuit, and it's such a fond place of memory for so many drivers. And for our international viewers, as we watched Brock Timperley go hard into the wall at turn 7 on the exit there. But for all of our international fans, they will be remembering, Lockie, a longer version or a slightly different version of this circuit back in Formula One. Of course, Formula One was held on this circuit from 1985 to 1995 before it moved to the much more modern circuit of Albert Park.
And there were some famous moments in those Formula One races over the years as well. Nigel Mansell infamously lost the championship with the tyre failure here one year. There were a few controversial title deciders as well, because of course it used to be the final and deciding round of the World Championship. So yeah, it's a circuit that's been steeped in history since it first came into existence in 1985, and like you said, it ceased to hold the Australian Formula One Grand Prix in the mid-90s, but then it was resurrected, the shorter version that we race on tonight, in 1999 for the inaugural running of what was then known as the Clipsal 500 for the V8 Supercars Championship.
And Lockie, what's great about this circuit as well, if you actually speak to not just the drivers and teams and the various competitors that were part of it, or even the fans, but you speak to the officials that were part of those early Formula One events, and they will tell you to this day there has never been a party in motorsport like the early days parties of Formula One in Adelaide. And some of the stories I've heard, you know, flybys with the jets early on, where they were so low, they set off every car alarm in the car park because they flew so low. There were no rules back in the 80s in Formula One, Lockie.
I wish I could have been around for it, but I'm a bit too young to have even been in existence back then. It sounds like it would have been an awesome spectacle to be a part of. Let's have a look at the times at the moment. Ben Bargwanna on top, ahead of John Martin, Brock Timperley, and then Tony D'Alberto in 4th position. I have to ask the question, Cameron, did you get to catch the latest episode of the Parked Up podcast this week?
I would be telling a fib if I had, Lockie, to be honest with you. But what's been the latest on the Parked Up podcast?
You've been plugging it every week, and I give you a nice segue there, and it turns out that you haven't listened to it. But anyway, Grant Rowley actually got me on the line just to give a bit of a preview into tonight's event. And one of the questions that Grant asked me was my thoughts on the performances of Tony D'Alberto so far. And let's just say that I was truthful in my judgment, and I said that Tony D'Alberto's campaign in the TCR Simracing Series has been somewhat mediocre to date, and I think that Tony has taken that personally. So watch out for a big performance for him tonight as he tries to prove me wrong.
Either that or his screen stands to have a keyboard through it at some stage in one of his infamous rage quits that will happen throughout. Now, Lockie, you should have told me, mate. I would have made sure I tuned in for your appearance on the Parked Up podcast, but my bank account's not overflowing at the moment, so until Grant Rowley starts giving me a bit of cash for comment, we'll probably start backing off on the announcements. I'm only joking. Here's Brock Timperley now on screen, sitting in position number 3, and with the challenges that Dylan O'Keefe will be facing tonight, I think we will see a new or potentially a different face inside those top 3. Ben Bargwanna, top of the charts, as you mentioned. Johnny Martin right up there alongside him. Brock Timperley doing a great job in 3rd. Luke King in 4th. Been having a fair bit of dialogue with Luke King. Tell you what, an impressive young man is Luke King, and the way he goes about his business, especially with regard to his sponsorship packs, commentary packs, you name it, really impressive. If every driver took the care that Luke King did in putting his information together, this sport would have a very, very much stronger presence in mainstream media.
Couldn't agree more with you on that. And in the various national categories that he's competed in, including the Toyota 86 series, he's certainly been very proactive in everything that he's done, not just to raise his own profile, but also that of the category that he's been competing in. And I know that he's been working hard to try and get a TCR program together for this season as well. One of the interesting things, we're almost halfway into this qualifying session. we're yet to see an indicative lap time from our series leader Dylan O'Keefe. He's currently scored all the way down in 11th position with the best time of 3 minutes and 25 seconds, which we know is obviously nowhere near the full potential of that car. Here he's on screen at the moment in the Renault Megane, but obviously with the fact that he's in a remote location tonight, probably hasn't done quite as much practice in the lead up to this particular event as what he has done for some previous events. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes.
Because I'm lucky enough, like you do as well, to have a live timing feed, which is different. And the number I've got on there for a best lap for him is a 1:25.6, which is not quick enough to be there with Ben Bargwanna, but certainly puts him inside the top 7 or 8 cars. So it'll be interesting to see if we can actually register a decent time for Dylan O'Keefe. And as you mentioned before, his ambition from the outset was to win one race at every circuit we go to on the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series. And the way this night is starting off for him, I don't think that is going to be a possibility at Adelaide. But having said that, if you ask Dylan O'Keefe, would he prefer to be driving a real-life TCR car on the other side or in Europe, or would he like to be doing a sim racing series? What do you think Dylan O'Keefe would be saying to you, Lockie?
Oh, I think it's a no-brainer. I think he'd love to be racing or driving the real-life TCR car over in Europe, and we've seen that he's already completed a test day with the Vukovic Motorsport team in Austria at the Salzburg Ring, and Vukovic Motorsport, they're the operation that is responsible for homologating the Renault Megane TCR car internationally. So a great opportunity for Dylan getting to do some testing with that team and provide some insights or get some insights into the way that team goes around preparing these TCR cars for competition in the various TCR series right around the world.
We ride on board with Brock Timperley, well and truly entrenched in the top 3 at the moment. That'll be a good starting position. Some of the other drivers that have had variable form throughout the season to date. Will Brown, he's back down in 9th, and we'd expect to see some bigger things from him today. He is, or has been, a race winner throughout this sim racing series. Chelsea Angelo, we've seen her on the podium, so we'll be hoping that she's going to jump up the order. And as you mentioned before, you fired up Tony D'Alberto, so hopefully he'll show us something tonight. He has patchy form, doesn't he, in the sim racing setup? I did hear on the Parked Up podcast, because I was made to listen to it by one of our mutual friends in Emma Francesco, who was on it recently. And I listened in, and Tony D'Alberto talking about upgrading his sim setup recently. So he's upgraded now, so no excuses there for Tony D'Alberto as we see him on screen now.
No, there are actually advantages that you can gain, just like, I suppose, real-life motorsport, by improving your sim setup. So one of the popular features that a lot of drivers have gone for are direct drive steering wheels, because they find that gives them much better steering feedback. And the other thing that has become quite a popular item of purchase among the sim racing fraternity has been load cell pedals, because again they find that gives a much better feel than the normal pedals that you would get with a more basic sim setup. So there are upgrades that the drivers can make to their sim rigs to improve the realism, and generally, from what I've heard, that does seem to translate to some time gains on the racetrack as well.
Now, speaking of sim racing and people out of their comfort zone, we will be getting set to go racing in real life with the Car Sales TCR Australia series coming up a little later on this year, and our series commentator, or one of our series commentators in Matt Nolte, I tuned in to watch his sim racing. I don't know if it's his debut, but it was certainly the first time I've watched him on a broadcast. And Noltz, how do you reckon Noltz went there, Lockie? Last night it was a dirt track.
Sprint car, wasn't it? It was a sprint car, wasn't it? Yeah.
Terrible. And the excuse book, he called me today, Matt Nolte called me today. Now, for a guy who's been a commentator most of his life, he has literally commentated thousands of events around Australia, from speedway to drag racing. I think he's even done jet boats to supercars at Bathurst. You name it, he's called it. He was so quick into the excuse book, I thought he'd been a driver his whole life.
Reminds me of the cameo appearance that I made in the Porsche Carrera Cup series a few weeks ago, which, to be honest, my on-track performances were not outstanding, and the biggest highlight for me that night was the fact that one of our other commentators, who you will be hearing on the broadcasts at the Australian Racing Group events, Richard Crail, he got to call me in action that night.
Good old Krause. Well, the other one that we're trying to keep an eye on and get him into proper sim racing is Greg Murphy, who's over the ditch at the moment. Sorry, Greg Rust. And the reason I say Greg Murphy is because he's been spending a lot of time with Greg Murphy. I believe they could drive a golf ball between each other's houses where they live in New Zealand. And Rusty, who's one of our other series commentators, has, I believe, been heading over to the Murphy household to have a bit of a go on the sim that's over there as well. So maybe we could coax the two of them, our series commentators, to join in for the final round of the sim racing series later on, which will be happening at Macau, which I'm really excited about, Lockie.
I still reckon that once this is all done, we need to have a commentators showdown as well at some point, where we all of us jump into a race and drive as fast as we can, but just to make it entertaining for everyone, I think we also should try and commentate while we're racing.
Oh, that is fraught with danger. 4 minutes remaining. John Martin, 124.6. Tony D'Alberto into second, and Ben Barguana third. Rowan Shepard fourth. Will Brown fifth. And Brock Timperley, who was third for the majority of this session, now finds himself back in sixth. And the reason I say that is going to be dangerous there, Lockie, Matt Nolte, Greg Rust, me, Krause, anyone else that might be involved in commentary, letting anyone else get a word in at any point in time is highly unlikely. So you'll end up with an entire field of people talking non-stop at each other, making zero sense.
Which would be fantastic, I'm sure, for people at home to watch. Then again, maybe not. So John Martin, he's got 0.4 of a second on the field at the moment, and Tony D'Alberto, if they can qualify on the front row, that would be by far and away his best qualifying performance of the season so far. Previous best qualifying result for Tony D'Alberto has been 7th. And so this is a big improvement in pace for Tony D tonight.
It's good to see, as Ben Barguana now goes up into the top two, pushing Tony D'Alberto, who's headed back into the pits, and he's also headed back to the second row of the grid at the moment. There's Ben Barguana on screen. He's moving along now. In terms of his qualifying format, how many times have we seen it so far this year where on the very last lap after the checkered flag has flown, Ben Barguana goes to the top of the charts? He has been outstanding in qualifying trim, and great to see, and we mentioned on last week or the last time we had a broadcast that he will be stepping up into the main game of TCR alongside his father, Jason. And Jace, Bugs, thank you for the messages again, mate. Yes, I agree with you that I would imagine, sorry, probably don't agree with you because I've never had it, but you have, that the wall at turn 8 does hurt more in real life than on a sim. That was the message I got from Bugs. So anyway, it's great to see him moving up through the ranks, and he's been so quick in sim qualifying trim, and he stands a really, really good chance tonight at jumping into the series lead.
Yeah, really, really looking forward to seeing how Bugs Jr. goes behind the wheel of that real-life TCR car as well. We've seen that he's had previous racing experience and success in front-wheel drive cars in the Hyundai XL series, so I'm sure that he'll make the transition to TCR cars very successfully. I got that text message through from Bugs as well, Cameron, and we'd have to say it just wouldn't be a night of the car sales TCR Sim Racing Series without Bugs firing text messages in.
No, and we appreciate it though. We love it. Great to see, and we hope we get more of them. We normally get them from various members of our adoring. Well, there's probably only 3 people that would adore us, and they'll be our parents and any siblings we have. Would that be about right, Lockie?
Yeah, pretty much. I've actually got a bit of a studio audience happening at my end tonight as well. A couple of interested housemates listening on in the background, or maybe
Fox
just
Sports,
tolerating.
Is it Fox Sports' own Brian Vanderwacker watching in tonight, inside the last minute of qualifying?
Indeed he is. So he's recently joined the Mansell household, so he'll be listening in the background, hearing
Great
at least one half of the commentary, because I've got my earphones in, so I can only hear me. You can't hear you, Cameron.
So I can say whatever I'd like about Brian Vanderwacker, and he will have no idea.
That's pretty much how we roll.
Okay, inside 30 seconds remaining in qualifying here. This sets the grid for round 11 of the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series. And that looked very much like John Martin went into the wall on the exit of turn 7, but the car continues to run pretty well. He's out in front, and he's got a good little gap, 2/10 between himself and Ben Barguana. So John Martin through turn 8, a 1:24.6. Tony D'Alberto just up the road from him, but 2 spots behind him on our provisional grid. Checkered flag flies now, so these laps count. Zach Suter through on the checkered flag with a 25.2. That locks him into 9th at this point in time, unless King or Chelsea Angelo can jump him. Great to see Dylan O'Keefe get a lap in now. Ben Barguana sits in 2nd, a 1:24.8. Only a couple of tenths to find. No, he won't go any quicker on this lap. He's aborted. So that will put John Martin well and truly on provisional pole. Tony D'Alberto crosses the line, doesn't go any faster with his 1:25.051. So the only other driver out there that we're keeping an eye on, Rowan Shepard, a 1:25.2. So in terms of time to find, he needs to find over half a second here. Now the question is, Lockie, he's a 10th down at the end of the first sector. Will he be able to find much more time to put him up potentially onto the front row or even to the inside of the second row? Down to turn 9, the hairpin you mentioned. Tough corner to rotate the car through. It looks like his lap's done as well. So Rowan Shepard is back in there, and you've got yourself a pole man there, Lockie, in John Martin. Great to see Johnny Martin getting the pole position there. Astron Tech pole position ahead of round 11 of the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series. Ben Barguana 2/10 away. He'll start on the outside of the front row. Tony D'Alberto inside of row number 2. Rowan Shepard to the outside of him. Dylan O'Keefe, great job in qualifying to, well, he was languishing, Lockie, let's call it that, for the majority of that qualifying session, but managed to get a lap to put himself up into the order. And for those of you just joining us now on the broadcast, Dylan O'Keefe is currently taking part over in Europe right now and just having a couple of technical glitches. So this could be the night where Jabba Jr., Ben Barguana, jumps up the order in the standings with regard to the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series. The official results of Astron Tech qualifying, with your Astron Tech pole position man being John Martin, former CAMS Rising Star member and certainly a much-loved family of the Ball and Racing development crew. Just saw a little bit of a sneak peek of an interview with him today, talking about all the different Spectrum chassis he's driven over the years. So great to see him, another one out of the Alan Docking Racing School as well, on pole position here. To the outside, Ben Barguana, who has been so dominant in qualifying trim to date and hoping to put himself into the lead of the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series at the end of even maybe this race. Not many points separating them, Lockie Mansell. Take us through exactly how it rolls out after qualifying.
So then, after that, we go back to Tony D'Alberto, who's had his best qualifying position of the season by far. Good effort as well from Rowan Shepard there. Dylan O'Keefe managing to qualify in the top 5 there, getting a lap in the dying stages. Keep in mind that because he's running an unfamiliar sim rig, it's going to take Dylan a bit of time just to get his head around how that sim setup differs from his own one. So that's a good performance there. Starting a little bit further back, some of our usual suspects. Good to see Jada Ransley running competitively once again. Brock Timperley back there as well. Luke King probably didn't qualify as well as what we might have expected based on some of the form that we've seen from him earlier on in the season. And I would have expected Chelsea Angelo maybe to be a bit further up as well, given the form that she had last time we were on a street circuit at Surfers Paradise.
Well, we know Chelsea Angelo, when she was running the red wine spec trim leading into the evening's competition, was blisteringly quick. She switched over to the white wines for the next one. Didn't work so well for Chelsea Angelo. I wonder what spec she's running tonight, Lockie Mansell. Just a very different form of training for our drivers in sim racing setup.
Maybe mineral water.
That's probably why she hasn't qualified so well, Lockie. We're not far away. We're inside a minute now from the race start for round 11 of the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series. I'm Cameron Vandendungen, joined by the ladies' man himself in the Chateau of Ladies up there in Sydney, Lachlan Mansell. Great to have him on board with John Martin and Ben Barguana on the front row of the grid. We're not far away from a race start here. Lockie, kiss of death time. Tell me, who are you putting the Moz on tonight?
Oh, dear. I was hoping I'd get out of it, but No, I'm going to tip John Martin for this one. Good performance from him to get his first Astron Tech pole position, and he'd dearly love to back that up with his first race win of the season. So my tip is John Martin for this one.
And we sincerely apologise to the entire Martin family for what's about to happen. Lights about to be on. Penultimate round of the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series. When all lights extinguish, we're racing. They're holding for a long time there at the start, but a solid getaway there from John Martin as they make their way down to turn number 1 as Tony D'Alberto able to get the inside run on Ben Barguana as they turn in. No, they hold station there, and that was Rowan Shepard straight into the wall, but they'll continue on the front 3. Looks like a few other cars got caught up in the carnage there as a result of Rowan Shepard going into the wall. Dylan O'Keefe, he's still holding on there in 5th place at the moment. So Martin D'Alberto, Barguana, Timpley, Dylan O'Keefe, and then we look back to Zach Suter, Ransley, King, Brown and Rowan Shepard way back in the order after that early contact. That looks like Jaden Ransley on screen now. So make their way through the staircase.
It's and really good evasive action there. I was just going to say, Cameron, some really good evasive action there from Brock Timperley, because Rowan Shepard went hard into the fence on the right there at the centre chicane, bounced back in front of the field, and several other drivers got caught up in that incident, but Brock Timperley was able to avoid it and made up multiple positions as a result.
So John Martin leads at the moment. Lockie Mansell's kiss of death hasn't had any effect just yet, but lots of laps to go. 1 of 18 we're at as Tony D'Alberto sets off after him up the road. Ben Barguana behind them. Tony D'Alberto, that little pep talk he gave him, Lockie, seems to have worked as he starts lap number 2 in 2nd place and starting to catch up onto the back of John Martin. Ben Barguana not letting them out of his sight. He'll build in this race and watch for him to be strong in the back end.
You can really see how much air the cars get over that centre chicane. They throw the cars over the curbs, and you can see that they get airborne just like they do in real life. And Tony D'Alberto, he's looking seriously racy here. The 2 wall racing Honda teammates nose to tail in the contest for the lead.
He's looking very racy, isn't he? So he'll continue to put on the pressure. Will Tony D'Alberto. Ben Barguana is trying to run with them, but it looks like the front 2 are just starting to check out at the moment. Timperley doing all he can to stay on the rear wing of Ben Barguana. Here we are down at turn number 9, and Tony D'Alberto ever closer to John Martin. This is going to be an interesting old race, Lockie, as Tony D'Alberto completely misses the apex there and runs very wide on the exit, takes evasive action, and he'll fall into the clutches now of Ben Barguana. So a small mistake early from Tony D'Alberto.
You could see there the understeer from D'Alberto's car as he negotiated his way through turn number 11, and he just had to get out of the throttle to make sure that he didn't whack the time wall on the outside. And you can see how much time he's given up to his teammate as a result of that. The margin was only about half a second. It's now out to 1.2 seconds, first to second, and D'Alberto now coming under pressure from Barguana in the Burson Auto Parts Peugeot 308.
So keeping an eye on some of the battles up and down the order as we continue to watch. That was the one I was looking for. Luke King onto the back of Dylan O'Keefe. That gap was ever closer. And now Luke King looking for a way past. Dylan O'Keefe's car just struggling to maintain some consistent speed. And I think Luke King's going to get a good run on him. The challenge, though, Lockie, is he able to get enough of an overlap as they turn in at turn 8. So Dylan O'Keefe will concede this corner. You don't hang to the outside there, or if you do, you go straight into the wall. Down to the hairpin now, and Luke King is through and should be able to consolidate this now lead and hold down position number 5.
For those of you playing along at home, one of the things that you'll notice is that the behaviour of Dylan O'Keefe's car looks noticeably different to all of the other cars on the racetrack, and that's because Dylan is playing along from overseas, literally on the other side of the world to everybody else. there's a delay in the data transmission via the internet network, and that's why sometimes there are a few delays with Dylan's position on the racetrack compared to everybody else. So that's why watching Dylan, his car looks a bit strange compared to some of the others.
Will Brown and Jaden Ransley having a decent old fist fight at the moment. This is a battle over 7th position on track. So Ransley and Will Brown, shots fired here. And it looks like Ransley's running a serious amount of left-hand down at the moment on that car. Compromised driving performance. So look at that, Lockie, in a straight line. Just really struggling with that car. But Will Brown is his target. And the two HMO customer racing entries, their Hyundais, are battling it out over, well, the mid-pack.
We've seen some really good racing from Will Brown earlier in this series. We saw that he got a race win at Sydney Motorsport Park. Got embroiled in a bit of controversy at Surfers Paradise as well, where he had a race win which was later taken off him, and he's waxed the wall at turn 8. Here comes his teammate Jaden Ransley down the inside, under brakes into turn number 9. The two cars make contact. Brown tries to do the switchback, not able to do so. Ransley shuts the door, and Will Brown has to decide, I think, at this point that discretion is the better part of valor, but he's gone right off the racetrack. And oh no, as he's come back on, he's collected Zach Suter. So a pretty messy lap there for Will Brown, and he's going to get shuffled back to 10th position.
That was beyond messy, Lockie. He has dented everything from the walls to the other cars to every panel on his HMO customer racing entry as Will Brown. That there was no discretion being the better part of valor in that move then, Lockie. As we look now to Zach Suter, shortcutting the chicane. He's under all sorts of pressure from Chelsea Angelo. And it looks like she might have a run on him here. To the inside, she'll dive down, and she will get that move done. So well done, Chelsea Angelo. She covers off just to make sure Zach Suter has to go round the outside, and she'll put him in the wall. That was coming from 50 out. He fired back at her though, and this battle will continue as well. There are elbows out everywhere around this circuit, Lockie.
Not just elbows, but I think heads, shoulders, knees and toes out as well, Cameron. The drivers are certainly getting very physical with one another on the racetrack. If they keep this form up, they might get in trouble for not social distancing, as Zach Suter goes to the outside at turn 8, and Chelsea Angelo makes the error of clipping the wall on the inside, which then spits her across the circuit and into the fence on the outside, and she's going to fall back behind Will Brown. And with the damage model that we run on Assetto Corsa, if you do have too much contact with the wall or with other cars, you get to deal with exactly the sorts of steering problems that Chelsea Angelo's got at the moment. That is, your steering gets knocked completely out of alignment.
Well, unlike Beyonce that wanted to go to the left of the left, all that Chelsea Angelo's car wants to go is right, Lockie. And that was going to be a very difficult thing to get back into the pit lane to repair and potentially get back on track. So Chelsea, you can count her out. She's with Rowan Shepard at the back there. But we're now back at the front. The gap, 1.6 seconds between John Martin and Tony D'Alberto. After that early little mistake by Tony D'Alberto, released the pressure on John Martin and given him enough breathing space here. But if you look back as well, Ben Barguana hasn't been able to take advantage to catch up onto the rear of Tony D'Alberto. And the gap's stable, 1.7, 1.8 seconds between first and second. Another 1.9 back to Ben Barguana, and then about 3.8 back to Brock Timperley. So it's all relatively stable and even at this point of the race, Lockie.
Indeed it is, and it does surprise me a little bit, Cameron, that Ben Barguana hasn't been able to mount a bit of a stiffer challenge on Tony D'Alberto. When you think about the comparative performance between those two drivers throughout the rest of this series, you would have thought that Barguana would have been right up there challenging Tony D'Alberto, who, as I mentioned on the Parked Up podcast, has had a bit of a patchy run so far this season, but has shown a big improvement of pace here tonight. John Martin, though, just controlling the margin at the front. As mentioned, he's come close on a few occasions, but hasn't quite managed to break through from that race victory. If he can keep punching out the consistent laps and keeping it mistake-free, he'll be well on target to do that.
So we ride on board now with Ben Barguana, keeping it nice and smooth, saving a bit of tyre up for the back end of this race. Watch for him to come on strong. It's almost like he'll release the car with about 4 or 5 laps remaining. But he won't let Tony D'Alberto get too much further in front. 1.3 seconds now, the gap. Whereas Tony D'Alberto dropping off the back of John Martin now. It's over 2.3, 2.5 seconds, the gap between first and second. So time for Ben Bargwanna to move now. Otherwise, he will lose touch with the leader, John Martin, who had a horrible outing last time at Sandown. In that final race, scored 0 points, did John Martin. His only 0-point event of the entire season to date. And Lockie, if I'm correct, did you pick him in that race as well?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Well, it hasn't worked so far. Your 100% track record of putting a Moz on a driver is not appearing to play out today. But we do still have 10 laps remaining, Lockie.
Don't speak too soon, Cameron, or something will go wrong, and then I'll be the least popular person among all of our TCR sim racing competitors. I can tell you. Let's not forget too that the second of our 2 races this evening, which will be round number 12, which comes up immediately after this one, will feature a complete inversion of the field. So, however well you go in this race, chances are you'll be starting down the order in the next one, as we see once again the HMO customer racing teammates in their Hyundai i30s duking it out through the centre chicane, running side by side. Will Brown and Jada Ransley making door-to-door contact. It's Will Brown who manages to get ahead on the run up to the top of Wakefield Street at turn number 4, just moving ahead of his Kiwi teammate Jada Ransley.
This is looking like a very different computer game. This almost looks like Need for Speed or Grand Theft Auto or something, the way these 2 drivers are going at each other. Will Brown, he's just leading from Jaden Ransley. The 2 of them have hit each other at least 100 times. I'm looking forward to the steward's report on this one as we ride on board with Will Brown. Hard left hand down. Look at that. This car is going to struggle to get it through turn number 8. And he doesn't. He just goes straight in the wall. I'm sorry for laughing, but that, I guarantee you, Will Brown is laughing right now.
He certainly has a lot of fun with his sim racing, Will Brown, and I think that Jada Ransley will be enjoying it as well. Look at the steering wheel on Jada Ransley's car. It's not much better. So both of the HMO customer racing drivers dealing with severely bent steering, which they're going to have to put up with throughout the entire second half of this race as they continue their squabble over positions 8 and 9. Will Brown, of course, the reigning car sales TCR Australia champion aboard the HMO customer racing Hyundai i30. And we've said it before and we'll say it again, one of the distinguishing features of really talented racing drivers is their ability to jump between all different types of race cars and be fast in all of them. And Will Brown has definitely demonstrated his versatility in jumping between different types of machinery.
John Martin, so far this year, has not had a race win. 5 seconds, but not one race win. So it'll be a big night for him tonight. If he can bounce back from that terrible result in round 10 of the series with a race win. A couple of drivers behind him at the half race distance now that would like to ensure that his streak of no wins continues. But just putting it out there, Lockie, 5 second places for him so far and no wins for John Martin.
Oh, Tony D'Alberto glances the wall on the exit of turn number 3. That's going to make him vulnerable to Ben Bargwanna, who comes ranging up on the outside, heading into the braking zone for turn 4. And Tony D'Alberto is going to need serious defence mode now because he's got a fired up Ben Bargwanna right on his tail, looking for some overtaking opportunities through the staircase. D'Alberto a bit wide through turn 6. He needs to make sure he gets a good exit from turn 7, because if he doesn't, Bargwanna's there ready to pounce. And what that has allowed is John Martin, our race leader, to open up an advantage of 4.5 seconds.
Well, points are going to be critical, Lockie, because if you look at the order at the moment, only 13 points, well, before qualifying was done, that did narrow slightly between Dylan O'Keefe and Ben Bargwanna, and we're right on board with Ben Bargwanna at the moment. So if he finishes in 30, he gets 30 points. Dylan O'Keefe at the moment sitting back in 6th, he only gets 21 points. That's a 9-point swing, Lockie. We are very, very close to Ben Bargwanna taking over the series lead. So this spot now is worth an extra 5 points. That guarantees the series lead at the end of this race. So critical for Ben Bargwanna to get through on Tony D'Alberto.
Indeed it is. So I'm just doing a bit of number crunching in my head here at the moment, Cameron. So in qualifying, Ben Bargwanna was second, so he got 9 points. Dylan O'Keefe was fifth, so he got 6 points. So the margin after qualifying came from 13 points back to 10. And like you say, it's 30 points for third place compared to 21 for sixth position. So that would mean that it would be only 1 point separating Dylan O'Keefe and Ben Bargwanna if positions were to stay as they are at the moment.
Yep, hence why critically important for Ben Bargwanna to get through, because those extra 5 points would guarantee him the series lead as we head into round 12, the reverse grid race. So the battle on over second place at the moment, but really this is for the series lead if Ben Bargwanna gets through. John Martin can feel comfortable. The pressure won't be on for quite some time. The gap out there, it's nearly at 4 seconds. In fact, it is now over 4 seconds between Martin and D'Alberto. But it's at that point of the season, Lockie, that point of the series where we start to calculate all the various point calculations, permutations, what will be the flow-on effect. And remember, every point will count. So Ben Bargwanna looking for a run on Tony D'Alberto here. Ran a bit wide on the exit there. I was wondering if he was looking for a little bit more traction. Didn't work though. So Tony D'Alberto continues to hold down second spot as they set off on another lap around Adelaide Street Circuit.
He actually took quite a wide entry to the final corner there, Ben Bargwanna, like you said, but didn't quite get the speedy exit that he was looking for. D'Alberto still having to drive really, really precise lines on every corner to ensure that he doesn't leave the door even slightly ajar. And the other thing, we've talked about the title contest between Ben Bargwanna and Dylan O'Keefe. I know that he's an outsider, John Martin. He was 73 points off the series lead coming into tonight's races. But all it takes is one bad race for Bargwanna or O'Keefe. And if John Martin can keep winning races and maybe string a few victories together, there's no reason that he can't be in the game heading to the final round at Macau either.
No, a lot of things would have to go wrong for Dylan O'Keefe and Ben Bargwanna for that to be the case, though. 73 points was the gap before they came here, and they knocked a few out of that as a result of qualifying the outstanding Astrontech pole position for Johnny Martin. But even then, he needs 2 race wins and 0 point score, essentially, for Dylan O'Keefe in order to ensure that he takes over the series lead. And that's not even counting for Ben Bargwanna. So 73 points is a huge gap coming into the final 2 events of the year. So a lot of things have to go right for John Martin, and a lot of things have to go wrong for Dylan O'Keefe and Ben Bargwanna. The interesting part about this, though, is going to be how much Dylan O'Keefe can salvage out of tonight, how much he can minimise the point loss. Ben Bargwanna, his challenge is to maximise his opportunity with a weakened Dylan O'Keefe.
And there is Dylan O'Keefe on screen at the moment, running around all on his lonesome at the moment in position 6. He's around 14 seconds behind Luke King, but he's a fair way ahead of the 7th place car of Zach Sousa as well. So for Dylan O'Keefe, I think, considering the fact that he is racing on the other side of the world and there are those netcode issues that will make it difficult for him as they're around other cars, being in a safe position where he can just bring it home and bank those points is probably not a bad outcome.
So, Lockie, you've been catching up with all of your open wheel racing from around the world. I know you're as big a fan of it as I am. Not a bad result for the Aussies in the FIA Formula 3 Championship.
How was Oscar Piastri's move at the start of race 2 at Barcelona, where he went from 5th to 1st in the space of a couple of corners? It was spectacular stuff from young Oscar Piastri, who is managed by another former Aussie open wheel star in Mark Webber. And Alex Peroni doing a really good job in finishing second behind Oscar Piastri in that race as well. So some fantastic results for our Aussie open wheel stars. A lot of questions being asked about when Daniel Ricciardo finally calls time on his F1 career, who will be the next Aussie to make it to Formula 1. And you would have to say that both Oscar Piastri and Alex Peroni are showing a lot of potential in that regard.
And on 2 wheels as well, Lockie, around the same time we had a pole position in Moto 2 for Remy Gardner. and a front row for Jack Miller in qualifying. So again, whilst the race results didn't play out the way they wanted, and let's be honest, the talking points of those two races weren't where people qualified or finished the races. Those were some frightening crashes that happened there in Austria. But at the same time, still great to see some qualifying speed, particularly out of Remy Gardner and also Jack Miller.
Yeah, really good performance from Remy Gardner, and it was a bit of a shame, obviously, that he threw his bike off the road. And Jack Miller, who was potentially in line for a really, really good result in that race as well, based on the performance that he showed. It was unfortunate that, he didn't end up winning, and, I suppose not a bad outcome, and he still managed to finish on the podium, but race victory would have been nice. As we turn our attention back to this battle, though, Tony D'Alberto, he's been under pressure now for a few laps from Ben Bargwanna, but Bargwanna's not been able to find a way past. Tony D'Alberto driving impeccable racing lines to ensure that the door has not been left even slightly open for Ben Bargwanna. And at this point, you have to ask the question, Ben Bargwanna, how aggressive does he become in going for this overtaking manoeuvre? Because he knows that his main title rival, Dylan O'Keefe, is a few positions behind him. And one of the things that we've seen throughout this series, Cameron, is that the officials have cracked down quite severely on car-to-car contact if they feel that a driver is significantly to blame for it. So the thing that Ben Bargwanna can't afford is a move that doesn't quite come off and ends up netting him a penalty and putting him behind Dylan O'Keefe. That's a situation that Bargwanna can't afford. So if he wants to go for the move, he has to make sure that it's decisive and 100% clean.
Well, if they don't look kindly on car-to-car contact, what are they going to do about Jaden Ransley and Will Brown after this race? Because those two, I don't know who you can pick's at fault. I think they're both at fault. Throw the book at both of them.
Good question. I wouldn't like to be the person adjudicating on those particular incidents. Maybe because they are teammates, they'll apply a bit of leniency. Bargwanna looking to the inside of D'Alberto, heading into the centre chicane. Pretty tricky to make a move through there because it is such a high-speed chicane. And while the first part of the corner is a left-hander, the second part of the corner is a right-hander. So it can make it quite tricky to get the job done through there.
It is a very difficult circuit to pass on. There's only a couple of key opportunities, and Tony D'Alberto just so strong in both of those points. One of them coming up here. So we've got a big long run as you exit turn 7, down through turn 8, and then you look to get to the inside at turn 9. So it'll be an out-braking opportunity. But look at how well Tony D'Alberto gets off turn 7 and then through turn 8. Bargwanna getting closer, but the Honda so strong. And that drive off the corners, and it does enough to keep enough of a gap that Bargwanna isn't able to take advantage of it in the braking zone.
It's running out of time here, Ben Bargwanna. Only 2 laps remaining at the end of this one. So maybe his best option now, he's decided that he's just going to keep the pressure on Tony D'Alberto and try and force the mistake. It's interesting, isn't it? The line that Ben Bargwanna takes, he takes that super wide entry there heading into the final corner. And I think it's trying to maximise the exit speed on the straight. It hasn't quite worked for him so far.
Well, that might be trying to counter the drive that Tony D'Alberto has, just looking to square it off a bit and just give himself a greater opportunity to get onto the loud pedal as quickly as possible and get a good exit. Tony D'Alberto covers here. There's an opportunity. You can smell the opportunity, can Ben Bargwanna. To the outside, you know when Tony D'Alberto's defending that hard that he's under pressure and he's feeling threatened. It's all about the drive off this turn. This is where D'Alberto's been so strong. Bargwanna, is he able to run with him? It looks like Tony D'Alberto hasn't had the advantage this time. I think Ben Bargwanna will be in the slipstream, and there we go. He's going to wait for his moment through turn number 8. You look to the inside, Tony D'Alberto covers off massively. Very aggressive move across by Tony D'Alberto there. He's going to have one more opportunity to get this done, Lockie. And he now knows where the weaknesses of the Honda are. So Ben Bargwanna will look to mount a big challenge on the final lap of this race.
I'll tell you what, that was right on the bounds of what's acceptable in terms of defensive driving from Tony D'Alberto. You're only supposed to make one change of direction in a straight line. And we saw that D'Alberto moved across to the inside and then sort of ducks back across to the outside on the approach to the hairpin at turn number 9. But on the previous lap, I reckon that D'Alberto probably had the slowest run that he'd had through the section of the circuit that we describe as the staircase, turns 4, 5, 6 and 7. So if Bargwanna can set him up through here this time around, make sure that he gets a good run out of turn 7 for the run down the straight and through turn 8, then he might be well placed to attack into turn 9. But D'Alberto looks a bit stronger through the staircase section this time around. I'm not quite sure that Bargwanna's going to be quite close enough, Cameron.
Not this time. D'Alberto much smoother, much cleaner, and got a better run off turn 7 than he did last lap. But Bargwanna, he's in the slipstream here. I don't think he's close enough, Lockie. I think D'Alberto's done enough here. He doesn't even need to cover off down into turn number 9. That's the confidence of Tony D'Alberto, but he runs wide slightly on the exit there. Is it a sniff for Ben Bargwanna? John Martin, he should be just about over the finish line now. Last corner for John Martin. He hasn't won a race in the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series, but now for Honda and Wall Racing, John Martin wins in Adelaide. In second
Fantastic
place now,
drive.
it's Honda also coming across the line and just holding on. An outstanding job by Tony D'Alberto, and Ben Bargwanna holds on for third. And I think you're right, Lockie. I think he's been thinking about the series win here and didn't just go for the outright result of the second place. It was a very smart drive by Ben Bargwanna. We wait now for Dylan O'Keefe. Is he able to hold on to sixth place, which will mean, Lockie, based on our numbers, it'll be a 1-point advantage to Dylan O'Keefe going into round 12 of the series.
It's getting seriously tight at the top of the standings, isn't it? But Dylan O'Keefe brings it home, banks the points for a top 6 result. But John Martin, fantastic performance from him to get the win from pole position. So ticking off a couple of boxes tonight, first pole position and first race win. I'm a happy man as well, Cameron, because my the curse is officially lifted. Commentator's curse has been lifted, so thank goodness for that.
Well done, mate. Outstanding result from you. And I think I didn't see that message that was popping through on my... I think there's been a bit of a contention between Will Brown and Jaden Ransley. There's commentary going on Discord right now. So if you are tuning in, if they've got a Twitch channel or you're able to listen in on their Discord channels, jump on right about now, because I think that is kicking off between Jaden Ransley and Will Brown, the teammates out there. But you need to pay all respect in the world to John Martin. As you mentioned before, his first Astron Tech pole of the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series, and also his first race win of the series. He was the bridesmaid 5 times, and he was finally the bride here in Adelaide, and what a track to do it at. The official results coming in as they come into the pit lane. Remember, we have a short break before we put them back out on the grid and get the final race of the night, which is round 12 of the season, underway shortly, and it'll be a reverse field. So, Lockie, take us through that official results from round 11. We will come to those in just a second, but Lockie, any other thoughts on the races that you saw so far tonight?
Well, I think that the battle between the HMO customer racing teammates was highly entertaining, and the good news is we get to see them doing it from the front row of the grid in the next race, because they were the last 2 classified finishers in that one. But looking forward to the next race and watching some of those faster drivers coming through from the rear of the field. I think one of the key things here is just going to be damage minimisation in the opening lap or so, making sure that you can get through without any damage and then being in a position to attack for the rest of the race.
So if you're Ben Bargwanna going into this race, you're only 1 point behind in the Sim Racing Series now. You're starting pretty much at the back of the grid, only 2 cars behind you in Tony D'Alberto and John Martin. What do you do, Lockie? Do you hang back and just wait for the carnage to unfold through turns 1, 2 and 3, or you just hope for the best and go for the smoke?
I think the key thing for Ben Bargwanna here is that he needs to get ahead of Dylan O'Keefe. They're the 2 drivers who are battling for the series. So we do get confirmation now of our official results from round 11 of the Car Sales TCR A Series here at the Adelaide Parkland Circuit.
So again, it was a wonderful win. His first win of the season in John Martin, and he did it lights to flag. He did it from pole position, so an outstanding drive from John Martin. 5 seconds and 1 first. Tony D'Alberto impressed throughout that race. He pressured John Martin early and managed to just hold off the hard-charging Ben Bargwanna for second place just at the end of that race. Dylan O'Keefe, what a drive from him. We know he's compromised on the technical capabilities he has at his disposal tonight. To bring that car home in 6 was a testament to the driver that Dylan O'Keefe is. Don't worry about HMO Customer Racing. They were pretty much putting each other in the wall throughout that race. Huge moment for Rowan Shepard off the start. That really put him behind the 8 ball from the outset. And Chelsea Angelo just about put that car in half with that monster moment at turn 8 as well. So Lockie Mansell, really the only drivers that had a clean race with the 3 out in front. The rest were pretty much caught in carnage from the outset.
They were, and we saw that the field got spread out quite significantly at the start of that race. Brock Timperley, like I said, he was one of the big beneficiaries because he was able to pick his way through the carnage in the early stages, and he came through to pick up 4th position at the finish. But I reckon one of the drivers to watch in this race with the reverse grid format, Cameron, will be Rowan Shepard, because he qualified reasonably well. So he's obviously got good pace, and he now gets to start on the front row of the grid. So if they can get a clean launch and get some clear track, I reckon Rowan Shepard could be pretty well placed here.
Lockie, you're getting confident now. You've only lifted the curse on one race. Now, don't you go giving it now to Rowan Shepard. But I agree with you. If not for that first corner incident at the start of round 11 of the series, that last race we saw tonight, what could have been for Rowan Shepard. And as a result, he'll start right up the pointy end of this race. And with outright speed as well and a very difficult track to pass on, Rowan Shepard could be a good bet for this round number 12 of the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series. Inside a minute now, Lockie. Any other final thoughts as we get set for the final race of the night?
Final thoughts? Let's go racing on the streets of Adelaide, and let's do it in reverse grid style. And let's watch some entertainment as the hard chargers come fighting through from the back of the field.
And Lockie, are we going to get you on camera next week? You got the green screen all sorted?
All ready to go. So the ladies' man will be on camera for the final round.
Put that on Parked Up Grant Rowley. Lachlan ladies' man Mansell, you'll see that face, that beautiful face that the ladies love, on our coverage next week or for the final round of the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series. Lights about to be on for the final race of the night, the penultimate round of the Sim Racing Series. And we look now for the lights to extinguish. Rowan Shepard had a shocker last race. Can he get it away quickly now? So Chelsea Angelo and Rowan Shepard on the front row of the grid. Drag race down to turn 1. This is where it all went wrong for Rowan Shepard last time out. Much better. And he now leads through turn 2 and turn 3, heading his way up into the staircase. And he's so confident he can go out wide without even having to cover off from Chelsea Angelo. Zach Suter runs long, and that'll be the end of his race. Oh no. The series leader, Dylan O'Keefe, involved in some carnage, and it was compromised beforehand, but right now he's dropped back to 10th.
Yeah, possibly some netcode issues there for Dylan O'Keefe on the exit of turn number 4, which has seen him drop back down the field. He actually got a pretty decent start and was up as high as 3rd position behind Chelsea Angelo, that finds himself tumbling back down the order. But Rowan Shepard doing exactly what he needed to do there at the start, getting the jump on Chelsea Angelo, moving through into the race lead. And Ben Bargwanna, he's had a good start, already up into the top 5, and we've only completed half a lap.
Speaking of Ben Bargwanna, the message coming through. Thank you for Jason Bargs for sending it through. He's had a chat with Ben. He got the hand and was told, I know what I'm doing, Dad. So the Kimi Räikkönen treatment. Leave me alone. I know what to do.
He'll be on the couch cheering on, no doubt, Will Bargs, as we see that our previous race winner, John Martin, is in an HMO Customer Racing sandwich at the moment. He's got Will Brown just ahead, Jaden Ransley just behind. And the concern here for John Martin will be that Ben Bargwanna's a couple of cars ahead, so if John Martin wants to take back-to-back race victories, he's got a bit of work to do. It's not something that we've seen done yet in a round of the Car Sales TCR Sim Racing Series. Driver managing to clean sweep the round. So John Martin, pole position, winning race number 1. Let's see if he can make up some places and contend for victory in race number 2.
It's a good point there, Lockie. The closest we've seen is a third and a first, and that was from Dylan O'Keefe. Oh, wait a minute. No, a second. No, yeah, a third and a first at this stage. I can't see anyone that's done better. And that was from Dylan O'Keefe on the podium of both races when we started off at Albert Park, as we ride on board with Luke King now. Luke King having a look to the inside of Chelsea Angelo. Does she run wide on the exit there? It looked like she did, but she's held on now. So Luke King got the lights ablaze, flashing, trying to get through into second spot. Brock Timperley behind him and Ben Barguana behind him. As it stands though, Lockie, if the checkered flag were to fly now, Ben Barguana would be the new series leader heading into the final rounds.
Indeed he would, because he scored in 5th position and Dylan O'Keefe's down in 10th. Rowan Shepard stretching the margin over Chelsea Angelo. It's out to 1.7 seconds as they complete lap 2. Brock Timperley, another decent start as well. We saw that he got a good getaway in the previous race. He's sitting there in 4th position at the moment as Luke King attacks on the back of Chelsea Angelo in the braking zone at turn number 4. At the top of Wakefield Street, Angelo covering off that potential overtaking spot there. We ride on board with Luke King in the VW Golf GTI TCR car. And he'll be looking for a good exit from turn number 7. You have to be a bit careful about how much of the ripple strips you use there, because if you take them too aggressively, they will compromise your exit speed.
And Lockie, just keeping an eye on those points, it could be that the swing would be almost to the point, if it stays where it is right now, that Ben Barguana will walk away with a lead almost the equivalent of what Dylan O'Keefe came in with, as Timperley runs into the back of Luke King. So Barguana waiting for his opportunity. You can see him in the rearview mirror. And again, the more points he gets in this event, in this race, the better his chances. Because remember, Dylan O'Keefe will be back on his home sim, and we know just how quick he is. So Dylan O'Keefe, he needs to get himself up out of 10th and hopefully take the spot from Tony D'Alberto. Only 0.7 of a second between those two. But in the meantime, this is Ben Barguana's moment. It's about as many points he can get, as big a buffer he can build going into the final event at Macau, which will be only 2 races.
Oh, a big sideways moment for Ben Barguana over the curb at the centre chicane there. You could see that the car got a bit unsettled and it came quite close to the wall on the outside as he exited that corner, and he had to feed in some opposite lock to keep the car pointing where it wanted it to. But on the tail with Brock Timperley looking to the inside at turn 7, difficult to make a move through there because it can compromise your exit speed for the run onto the straight. John Martin putting the pressure on Will Brown, whose steering wheel seems to be a lot straighter now. We ride on board with one of the other Hyundai i30s in the field. The car of Brock Timperley, who's still tucked up behind Luke King and has Ben Barguana putting the pressure on from behind. Oh, a mistake from Brock Timperley down at turn 9.
Both John Martin able to get through on Will Brown, as well as Ben Barguana through on Brock Timperley. So that was critically important for both the series and also the race results tonight. So John Martin through on both of the HMO customer racing entries, and that was critical. He chases now after Timperley. Ben Barguana only 1 spot off the podium now, and he's actually within striking distance of a race win here, Lockie, because Rowan Shepard has not been able to skip away. He's only 1.5 seconds up the road from Chelsea Angelo. So Ben Barguana's in the hunt for a race win still on lap 5 of 18. And here we go again, the HMO customer racing boys about to get back into each other again.
And Barguana gains another spot. He gets around Luke King on the run up to turn number 4. So Barguana up inside the top 3. He's got just a couple of cars left to pass to gain some more valuable points on Dylan O'Keefe. So our race leader, Rowan Shepard, another driver who's yet to achieve a race victory in the Car Sales TCR E-Series. His best result to date has been 3rd place, which was in the 2nd of the Sydney Motorsport Park races. But still can't afford to make any mistakes, Rowan Shepard, because the other cars behind him are still quite close, and we know that there's some hard charges fighting through, including Ben Bargwanna, who we know is very, very fast.
Well, Ben Bargwanna, he will be onto the rear of Chelsea Angelo in no time here. So she holds down second place. The gap now 2 seconds between herself and Rowan Shepard, but even then she's getting ever closer as Ben Bargwanna charges on. I'm also interested in the battle going on behind with John Martin and Brock Timperley. So Bargwanna chasing Chelsea Angelo. They make their way round. Lap 6 of 18. Dylan O'Keefe, unfortunately, has disconnected in this race. Lockie, that's a huge turn up here. This is the opportunity where Ben Bargwanna could well put this series beyond reach of Dylan O'Keefe. So Dylan O'Keefe, your series leader as we came into this event, is now disconnected, Lockie. So Ben Bargwanna, he came into this race 1 point behind. He currently sits in third, worth 30 points. If this finishes now, he could have a 29-point lead going into the final 2 races of the season.
Correct, because if you disconnect, that's a DNF, that's 0 points. So that's such a shame for Dylan O'Keefe, because he had really put in the effort. Winning this series meant a lot to him, and he was determined, even despite his overseas excursion, to do everything that he could to keep participating and keep banking those points. So that'll be very disappointing for him to be out of this race. But the battle's well and truly on here. Luke King fending off Brock Timperley. We saw that they were side by side up at turn 4 on the previous lap. John Martin and Will Brown getting into the combat as well. It's a 4-way contest, positions 4, 5, 6 and 7.
So this is very interesting for the series, Lockie. And the question now starts to be asked, when the opportunity to try and pass Chelsea Angelo comes about, at what percentage of risk will Ben Bargwanna go for the move? Is it about the race result? Is it about putting the series beyond doubt tonight, which he may not be able to do due to the fact he could have his own technical issues when we go to Macau for our next 2 rounds, the final 2 rounds of the year? Or does he look to just conserve and hold a 29-point lead going in? So the question is, to attack or maintain? What would you do, Lockie?
Well, the head says that you maintain your position. Oh, contact at turn 8. That's a big shunt there. So Brock Timperley's gone hard into the fence. You could see that coming. 2 cars running side by side into turn 8 typically does not work. As I mentioned before, there's no runoff on the outside. And it's Brock Timperley who's come off second best there and been fed into the concrete wall.
So one thing this disqualification, this disconnection does is, you mentioned before that John Martin was at very, very outside chance. Well, if John Martin can get himself a decent bank of points here, well, you never know. He might be a chance at second in the series, Lockie. There is a very real chance. But having said that, John Martin's into the wall. So I've just taken over the commentator's curse, and that has really ruined John Martin's night. He was going so well. Your Astron Tech pole sitter. He won round 11 of the series, and now he's in the fence and hobbling around with 10 laps remaining.
And he seemed to have done that all on his own as well, Cameron. There were no cars that were in his immediate vicinity at the time. So coming out of the centre chicane there on the exit of turn 3, he's just gone straight ahead and fired it hard into the outside fence. Massive damage to the steering on that car. So both John Martin and Brock Timperley with wounded cars. Dylan O'Keefe, we know, is out of the race altogether. There's been a bit of attrition in this one. You know,
and look at this.
Yeah, the question that you were asking earlier.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is the moment. It got as close to 0.2 seconds. Don't even look at the timing board anymore. Look to your monitors as Chelsea Angelo tries to hold off what is now effectively your series leader in Ben Bargwanna. He'll have a very happy father in the background, hoping to see a good result here. A very competitive family, the Bargwannas, and they'll be wanting as many points as possible. Inside run, not able to get it done now, down into turn 1. So where does Bargwanna put the move on?
I reckon there's a couple of opportunities. One is up here at turn 4. Also turn 9 we've seen has been a pretty popular overtaking spot. The other one that you can get it done at is the final corner. If you can get a good run through that final sequence of turns. So plenty of overtaking opportunities here on the Adelaide Parkland circuit. But in answer to your question before, do you go for the position or do you conserve? Knowing the championship situation, the head says that you probably play it conservatively. The heart and the racing driver attitude says absolutely you go for it.
So Chelsea Angelo slightly covers off. That tells you where her head's at, where her mind's at. It's well and truly in the rearview mirror. She knows the calibre of Ben Bargwanna in this sim racing format. Tries to hold him off, takes up a fair bit of curb. Bargwanna looking for the strengths and weaknesses of the car in front. Where's the moment? I think he'll get it done into the final turn. I know you mentioned it could get done there, Lockie, but geez, you'd be brave to try and put a move on at that corner. The opportunities really, turn 4 I agree wholeheartedly, turn 9 absolutely, and then you just have to hope they make a mistake somewhere else. So now, see a massive launch and Ben Bargwanna's into the fence. Ben Bargwanna into the fence, took up too much curb, and your series leader, we talked about, was he going for the move? And Lockie, oh no, what does this mean? The drama.
We were riding on board with him when he made that mistake, and like you said there, Cameron, it just took a bit too much of the high rise and quite unforgiving curbs there at the centre chicane. That unsettled the car and that fired Bargwanna into the fence. The big question that you have to ask now is what sort of damage has that done to the steering on that car? At this stage, he's only lost one position. He's fallen back to 4th behind Luke King. That very much lets Chelsea Angelo off the hook in the battle for 2nd position. We're right on board with Ben Bargwanna, and the steering wheel looks like it's still pointing in a straight line, so he might have got away with that without sustaining too much damage. That is a big and very lucky escape if he's managed to survive that crash.
So where he sits right now, 1.5 seconds off the back of Luke King in 4th position. That's a 27-point haul. He was 1 point behind. 26 points would be his lead going to Macau. So he might, as you mentioned, have gotten away with one there, Ben Bargwanna, but it shows you just how quickly it can all go wrong for the young driver. Lap 11 of 18. That's Luke King we see. He's the final step on the podium as it stands. Rowan Shepard, he's comfortable now, 2.5, nearly 3 seconds up the road from Chelsea Angelo. There he is, your race leader. After that moment he had on the first turn of the first lap of the first race of the night, this would be a massive turnaround for his night.
I hope he can bring it home in this last 8 laps, because then I'll be 2 for 2 tonight as far as my tipping form goes, which will hopefully silence some of the critics who were so scathing about my ability to tip race winners in the previous round.
It'll never silence your critics, Lockie. Never, ever will it silence your critics. Don't worry about that. But haters going to hate and players going to play. And you are the greatest of all players. As we look now to Tony D'Alberto, position number 6. He's chasing down Will Brown, 5th place, just in front of him. And Tony D'Alberto, another one of our drivers that was exceptionally quick in the first race, but just has not been able to make his way through the field in the second race of the night.
No, he's inherited some positions just by staying out of trouble and capitalising on the attrition for some other drivers, but the competition's so tight that overtaking's difficult, and Tony D'Alberto's not been able to find a way past Will Brown at this stage, and we know that Will Brown's a pretty tough campaigner to try and pass at the best of times, as we see D'Alberto and other drivers get seriously unsettled over the ripple strip at the centre chicane. Didn't end up with quite as severe consequences as what we saw for Ben Bargwanna or for John Martin earlier on, but yeah, if you hit that curb too hard or you're hitting at the wrong angle, it can spit you into the wall very quickly.
So our night is starting to wind down now. And Lockie, this is probably a good opportunity to make sure that everyone checks their diaries for the next event. We will be going to Macau, and you will be seeing Lachlan Ladies Man Mansell. That is our very special exercise for the event, up on the big screen in front of you. And I look forward to seeing you in the virtual studio, Lockie, next week, or the next round.
Yeah, very much looking forward to that, Cameron. I'll do a bit of work here to get the green screen set up. Might get my resident television expert, Brian Vanderwacker from Fox Sports, to give me a bit of hand with getting all the gear set up to make sure that I look the best that I possibly can on camera. Am I allowed to have any ladies as extras, given that I am the ladies' man?
No, Lockie. No, you're not.
Oh.
So, lap 13 of 18. Ben Barguana in 4th place at the moment, only half a second off the back of Luke King. Trying to get himself back onto that podium. He was looking like an outside chance, or even a better than outside chance, of getting himself a race win. But now it's about, again, as many points as possible. I think he's a chance here. The run off turn 7 for him, though, hasn't been as strong as some of the other cars around him. So we'll see if he can get up onto the back of Luke King and put a move on down at turn number 9. There's your race leader through. Chelsea Anslow holds down 2nd. This is the battle for 3rd on screen. King and Barguana. Behind them is Brown and Delberto. Down to turn 9. Ben Barguana not close enough, Lockie. Take it away.
So if Rowan Shepard could hold on here, it will be in the second race tonight where we've had a first-time race winner, John Martin, breaking through for his first race win of the series in the previous race. In fact, even if Chelsea Angelo was to get ahead of Rowan Shepard, she would become the first-time race winner as well. Her previous best result, the 2nd position on the streets of Surfers Paradise. So again, we're seeing Chelsea Angelo rise to the fore on a street circuit.
Well, the big thing here, though, Rowan Shepard will be on his 2nd time to the podium, as I think you mentioned earlier, but his first time to the top step for this season. It's been quite a while. He was actually on the 3rd step on the podium back at Bathurst in the 4th round of our series, the 2nd race of that night, and it's been a long time. He went to Eastern Creek, only 2 and 7 points. Surfers Paradise, only 6 and 15 points. Started to find some form with a 5th place at Sandown, and a race win here would be outstanding for Rowan Shepard.
It's on here. Ben Barguana's caught right onto the tail of Luke King, so the battle for the final podium position well and truly up for grabs here. We saw this in the previous race, didn't we, where Ben Barguana was attacking the back of Tony Delberto for lap after lap after lap, but was not quite able to find a way through. Let's see if he can have a bit more success now.
Not close enough at the moment, though, Lockie. We'll see how we continue to go from here. And again, he's just being ever so more cautious. Just wanting to make sure that he can at least bank his current 27 points as it stands right now for 4th place. It'll be 3 points to the good if he gets up into 3rd, and then it's 5 points each place he gains from there. Opportunity here because Luke King took up too much ripple strip. Luke King parks it on the inside though. That'll limit the opportunity here for Ben Barguana. But the first sign of weakness we've just seen from Luke King. And Barguana right under that rear wing now. Again, it's about the exit off this turn here. This is the critical spot where he hasn't been as strong as some of the other drivers around him. But Ben Barguana looks the closest he's been on Luke King now. Down through the fast turn 8. He's not very close there. King goes to cover off, but he's comfortable enough with where they're at. Barguana closes up massively. It's that drive off the turn. The exit at turn number 7. It's going to give him the opportunity. Not going to get through there. Ben, the next chance will be either a mistake through the first couple of chicanes, or you can maybe lunge up the inside of turn 4. Only 2 real, genuine spots to pass at the Adelaide Street Circuit. It's not as long a run down to turn 1. But again, all you want to do is pressure them into a mistake, and that's what Bargwanna's hoping to do. But King, so strong. He did well there. Doesn't even need to cover off into turn 4. And now we'll wait. Again, it comes down to that drive off turn 7.
Bargwanna came a bit too hot there into turn 4, Cameron. You could say that the car understeered at the apex. As Luke King clouts the curb, and here comes Bargwanna up the inside into turn 7. King will look to do the switchback. That was all created because King hit the ripple strip on the inside at turn 6. They'll go side by side down the straight on the run into turn 8. Hold your breath through one of the fastest right-handers in the country, and it's Luke King who manages to hold on to the position. Somehow they both made it around there side by side without either one of them ending up in the fence. I thought that Bargwanna was through there for sure with King's mistake at turn 6, but King was able to do the switchback manoeuvre, get back to the inside on the exit of turn 7, and he manages to hold on to position 3.
Shows you just how hard it is to pass, doesn't it, Lockie? Only a couple of laps remaining in this one. Luke King runs a bit wide. He runs a very similar line to that of Ben Bargwanna. And we set off again. Chelsea Angelo still inside 2 seconds off the back of Rowan Shepard. She's not out of it just yet. This gap, though, well and truly done and dusted. So it's now only a battle over third. Not enough time left for Ben Bargwanna to put a move on for second. But remember, this is worth an extra 3 points for his series title towards a potential series title. What would be the inaugural winner of our Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series. Couple of laps remaining. That's Ben Bargwanna on screen. Dylan O'Keefe, for those of you tuning in, he is disconnected and therefore is disqualified from this race and will get 0 points. He came into this race with a 1 point lead in the series and will go out sitting way back in second, and as it stands will be 26 points off the lead. But if Ben Bargwanna can get through on Luke King in this last lap, it'll be a 29 point advantage to Ben Bargwanna heading into Macau.
So here is Luke King. If anything, he's just opened up a bit of breathing space on Ben Bargwanna this time around. 1 lap remaining. It'll be Bargwanna's last chance to find a way back onto the podium. Bargwanna a bit wide on the entry there to the final corner. And again, that just allows Luke King to open up a couple of car lengths over Bargwanna, provided that King can keep it mistake-free for the last lap. I think he might have just about done enough to secure VW Golf's position on the podium.
Just making some notes. We will have interviews with our Race 1 and Race 2 winners for tonight. Rowan Shepard leads. Chelsea Angelo's close enough, though. If something goes wrong for Rowan Shepard, it could be Chelsea Angelo's race win here.
Well, from the highs to the lows for John Martin, because he's gone from taking the victory in the previous race to being almost a lap down in this one. But how refreshing will it be, Cameron, to have a couple of new voices to chat to on the coverage tonight?
It'll be very good. I've known John Martin for a very, very long time. It'll be good to have a chat with him, find out how the old Queensland mining business is, although he did tell me that the family sold out of that. Used to drive the big mining trucks.
Oh.
Hold on a second, Rowan Shepard has stopped. It'll be a different person I'll be talking to here. With only a couple of corners remaining, Rowan Shepard hands over the lead to Chelsea Angelo. And all my notes go out the window and we start again. Chelsea Angelo wins round 12 of the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series. Her first win of the series. Well done, Chelsea Angelo. Unbelievable, Lockie. We were just winding up for a Rowan Shepard win. And Ben Bargwanna finishes in 4th place. So he now takes over that series lead. That is locked away. What could have been either way with that moment he had, and Rowan Shepard's not even going to make it to the line. Oh, no, drama.
It's like he's run out of fuel. I wonder if that's what's happened. I wonder if he's miscalculated the fuel that he started the race with and the car has run dry on the final lap. What a heartbreaker.
Well, we saw that happen to Chelsea Angelo in the Esports Cup earlier this year as well in lockdown 1.0 when she ran out of fuel and gave up a very good chance at a podium. So unfortunately for Rowan Shepard, he's learnt a lesson now that Chelsea learnt in the Esports Cup, and she goes on to win the race. Unbelievable, Lockie.
Well, that was a turn up for the books and a very dramatic finish for round number 12 for the Car Sales TCR Australia Simracing Series, but we do end up with another first-time race winner, Chelsea Angelo, improving upon the second position that she picked up at Surfers Paradise to get her first race victory of the series. So great to have a couple of first-time race winners this evening. In terms of the championship, though, Ben Bargwanna, he will pick up third position behind Luke King in that race, so that will be a very valuable haul of points in the bank for Ben Bargwanna, 30 of them to be precise, and he will carry a 29-point advantage over Dylan O'Keefe heading into the final 2 rounds of the series at the Macau circuit in a fortnight's time.
Incredible scenes here, Lockie, to the point where I'd actually written down on my notepad and was doing the notes on Rowan Shepard, looked up to see that car just stop out on track. It'll be interesting to hear what Chelsea Angelo has to say. That is all for the racing. Very shortly, we'll have the official results of round 12 of the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series up on screen. And what a night it has been. John Martin was your pole man and your winner of round number 11, the first race of tonight. And then with only a couple of corners to go, Chelsea Angelo took over the lead. And as you mentioned before, Ben Bargwanna, as a result of Rowan Shepard not being able to finish, he jumps up the order and gets some much-needed points, some very valuable points towards his series charge. And it looks like Ben Bargwanna has one hand on that trophy at the moment. Lockie, your thoughts again as we start to wrap up tonight's coverage.
Well, it's not over until it's over, and I'm not going to say that Ben Bargwanna's home just yet, because if I was to say that and he lost it from here, then I'd have a very, very angry Jason Bargwanna that I would have to deal with. So I won't make any big calls or super bold predictions at this stage, but the pendulum has well and truly swung towards Ben Bargwanna. But that was a drama-filled round, wasn't it? Incidents involving some of our title contenders, the last lap change for the lead and the win with just a couple of corners left to run in the second of the races. Certainly had a bit of everything tonight, that's for sure. And bring on Macau, because if the Adelaide Street Circuit produced drama, then Macau, I think you can multiply that by a factor of about 100, knowing what that circuit has produced in the past.
Yeah, it's incredible, Lockie. Official results up on your screen now. Thank you to everyone that's tuned in from around the world. What a race that was. Ben Bargwanna very nearly threw it all away, didn't he? We saw the disqualification of Dylan O'Keefe because he disengaged from that race, so he escaped and got disqualified. No points, meaning Ben Bargwanna now leads the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series. But as we always do, we chat to race winners and a couple of new voices to talk to tonight. Not new for motorsport fans, but new for the Sim Racing Series. We'll start with your Astron Tech pole sitter and race 1 winner, John Martin. Mate, congratulations. That was a great start to your night.
Yeah, decent start. I don't know where the lap come from. It's just whether qualifying was a bit quicker than practice or not. But just had reasonable pace and did a few laps. It was good enough for pole there. So it was that was kind of good, considering we've been so close in some of the other rounds leading up. So it's good to finally get a pole.
And in that first race as well tonight, Johnny, we saw Tony D'Alberto really put the pressure on. Did you feel that pressure? Once he had a slight mistake, it almost looked like you were well and truly in control from that point. And with 5 second places to your name going into tonight, was it nicer to be the hunted rather than the hunter?
Yes and no, really. Like, I definitely felt the pressure from Tony. I was like, holy, he's having a good night. He's turned up the pace, that's for sure. But and it's good to see. Obviously, he's had a bit of bad luck and a bit of a crap run of it. But so it's good to see him get some pace on board. But like you say, it's definitely had a heap of pressure there in the first few laps. But as soon as I knew if I could just keep the tyre alive, like just try to bring it up the temp easily, and then I knew I'd have a car from sort of mid-race onwards to just be able to control the pace. And then, I seen him make a couple of mistakes, and then that kind of gave me some breathing room, and I could just punching out 20, 25-1, 25-1 every lap sort of thing, and just try not take too much out of the tyre until near the end, and then I was just like, all right, let's go, and it's sort of built a bit more of a gap.
Mate, it was great to see. Now, it would be remiss of me not to ask you what happened in that last race. We were actually riding with you at the time when you made that contact with the wall. How did that unfold?
Oh, which contact with the wall was that? There's about 25 of them.
Oh, really? Well, we saw one dramatic one that set you right back. You nearly actually got lapped in the end there, but it was a bit of a turnaround there, though, wasn't it? So, what happened? Just lose control of the car, or?
Yeah, well, it's a bit of damage I got for obviously, like O'Keefe, I think got turned around at turn 4, and then tried to slip past there and got a bit of damage, and then I bumped Will as well. I was trying to pass Will and he kind of blocked, and I was like, I didn't want to get into him, but I locked up and just nudged him. So it's had a bit of damage already. And then I got a run on the Orange Hyundai into turn 8. We went through there side by side. I thought he had left. I thought I'd actually cleared him. And then, so I just pushed too wide. And then I looked in the mirror and seen him. He was flying. I'd got the wall. And then went into turn 1 on that lap. And then it was just, I don't know, something happened with the whole rear suspension wasn't liking it. And got the curve a bit wrong and ended up in the fence. And then at the end, I couldn't even steer the thing. It was like literally like, sort of 100 degrees of steering lock just to go straight. And it was just, it was a nightmare, but just tried to get some points then. And, tried to finish rather than, sort of similar thing, I think, at Sandown. But that one there, the whole engine, everything was broken. I just had to exit out. Thing wouldn't go anymore. So at least I could keep going tonight.
Well, for Wall Racing and Honda, congratulations, John Martin, your first win of the Sim Racing Series.
No worries. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, mate. Now, for our very remarkable Race 2 winner of the night, Chelsea Angelo, I take you back to the Esports Cup where you ran out of fuel. Do you think that is what's happened to Rowan Shepard, that you're now on the other side, someone that's taken advantage of someone else running out of fuel?
That's what I believe happened. He was coming around the fourth last corner on the circuit, and then all of a sudden I saw his car start to slow down. I'm like, oh, we're on here. We're on the last one. Cross the checkered flag in first. So I'm pretty stoked with that because I didn't think I would be anywhere near the front, to be honest.
Well, you were unbelievably quick throughout. You were never really more than 2 seconds away from him. We thought you might threaten towards the end, but I'll be honest, we were all caught napping on that last one. You must have been very happy with your race to that point. Regardless of how the win came, it is still a win to your name.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I think the main part about that race was to try and be consistent as much as what I could be to try and stick with Rowan. I mean, I could see like there was a gap between 2 seconds to about 1.8, 1.7. So it was good to see the consistency. And then, that last half of the lap was just honestly pure luck. But I know how that feels because that definitely did happen to me in the first E-Series that we did. And we were coming about like second or third at the time. And the last few corners we ran out of fuel. So it's absolutely gut-wrenching, but I'm super stoked that I came away with a win tonight.
Well, I was actually calling that Esports Cup race as well for you, Chelsea. So I remember this and I thought this is a sweet reward for you after the pain of that one. And to do it in the Sim Racing Series has been outstanding. Take us through your night, though. So race 1 didn't go as well as race 2 for the evening. Looked like there was a fair bit of carnage going on in race number 1.
Yeah, definitely. So coming into turn 1, there was a whole heap of carnage coming into that chicane part of turn 1 and 2. And unfortunately, I was just a pure victim in that situation and got caught up in it. And that put me down a bit. And then the car was a fair bit damaged. So we just kept dropping wheels and hitting the wall and all that. So it obviously didn't help. So we were a fair bit down the back in race 1. And then obviously it was reverse grid. So we started off, I think it was second or pole or something, and got through turn 1 and turn 2 cleanly. And it was just honestly eyes forward and go full steam ahead.
Now, choice of beverage tonight, red, white, amber?
It was definitely white. I mean, it was only a couple of glasses just to ease off the nerves, I guess, coming into this race.
Well, whatever it was, Chelsea, keep doing it because it was wonderful. Congratulations. You are now a race winner in the Car Sales TCR Australia Sim Racing Series.
That is awesome. It's good to have that title behind me. So at least I can say I've won a TCR E-Series online race. So pretty stoked, and thank you so much for having me.
Well done, Chelsea. Well done, John Martin. To all of our other competitors tonight, great result. We have a new series leader. We had 2 new race winners. We had carnage, drama, you name it. What a great event. And it was the penultimate round, meaning we've only got one more remaining where we head to Macau. So thank you to everyone tuned in from all over the world, all over Australia. And for those of you like me, locked down in Melbourne, hold on tight, guys. Only a few more weeks to go, and then we'll be allowed back out in the sunshine. In the meantime, though, check your diaries, check your social media accounts, and we'll see you in Macau.